Thanks for staying with us. So we're bringing in our guest, a two-time Honorable House of Representative, Honorable Bush. So we're going to go back to the issue of education, which is why we brought you here. You know, as a two-time member of the House of Reps, we think that a lot could be done in our educational sector, from basic all the way to tertiary, and even to the other technical schools. Mm-hmm. So many interventions, international or local, and for some, one thing has been very, very apparent. None of it has really worked. You know, all these international bodies come in here, they come with all these fantastic programs, they train 1,000 people, and they go off, and they get more international funding, and we don't really see the crux of what they're doing. So what do you think, as we enter the 2022, what can government begin to do across the board, from basic to technical schools and tertiary institutions? What can we begin to do to change the educational sector within our country? That's a broad question.
Well, we have to start from the genesis of the problem. And I would say that in the process of looking for a solution, we found a problem in the educational sector. The ECOWAS was established in 1975. Nigeria is a signatory to the ECOWAS Treaty. This guarantees the freedom of, you know, goods, services, and all sorts. If I remember clearly, in 1983, there was a problem of unemployment, a scare of unemployment. Government came up with a policy to protect its citizenry. They decided that some foreigners had to leave. If you think back, you would remember that during that period, we had white teachers, we had Ghanaian teachers, we had Togolese teachers, Lebanese, Indian teachers.
Yes.
Some of them came in search of work. Some of them came with their husbands, who were expatriates then. And we had the best from everywhere feeding into our educational system. And we had proper standards. We also had a currency that was practically almost at par with the pound. So for those who are British, or who were British then, they lived a better life, earning the same amount of money or even less in Nigeria than being in England. The Ghanaians who came were attracted by the value of our currency. Now, over time, when we decided that foreigners had to leave, I think, if I'm right, I think they had either between 90 and 60 days to leave, 90 and 120 days to leave. So what happened? They left with all that knowledge. Fine. We wanted to create employment, so we looked to graduates. Oh, you studied biology, you're going to become a biology teacher. You studied mathematics, you're going to become a mathematics teacher. Forgetting that studying something and having the passion to teach it are two completely different things. Fast forward to now. Government came up with other policies, realizing that government couldn't do it alone, and decided to look in the area of the private sector. So what did they do? They gave out licenses to individuals and people from the private sector, and they came up with schools. But the problem is, the question is, what was that to address? Was it that we didn't have enough schools? Or was it that we were looking at the quality and standard of education? Now we're dealing with the fact that we can't have foreigners come here because our currency as it is really not as attractive to them.
Right.
The Ghanaians don't want to come anymore. They're comfortable where they're at. And we've seen so many schools now. I think Lagos State alone, as of 2019, had 20,000 registered private schools. Registered. Now, did the number change the standard of education and the quality of education? The answer is no. So what should we be looking at? We should be looking at more teacher training colleges so that the best quality teachers, if our currency isn't attractive enough for them to come, it means then that we have to bring the mountain to Muhammad.
Right.
Have them train people with that passion so that the same knowledge can percolate down.
Okay. So I know that we have colleges of education, teacher training schools. We've always had them. But what we tend to find is that for most people who go to these places are maybe people who had missed getting to proper universities, following a course that they wanted, and so they always feel that teaching is something that they could just rely on, that would take them. That was the barest minimum. So the colleges of education that we have already, I feel that that's where we need to work on and find better trainers or improve the standards of these colleges of education. And maybe the entry level for colleges of education should change. What do you think? That's
exactly what I'm saying, or I'm trying to say, that we shouldn't be focusing on new schools anymore. We should be focusing on if it can be privatized so that, I mean, we have consulting firms coming up with fantastic consultants who are well paid. So why can't colleges of education also be structured like such, so that the quality you're bringing, I mean, education has gone way beyond where it used to be. We have so many issues to deal with right now. We have dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, special education. I was somebody who was dubbed like as an oludo when I was younger. But it wasn't the case. It was just that I learned things differently. And until I discovered that, I tell people, be careful what you say to me, because if you ask me in 30 years, I'll tell you that's not what you said. I found out that I had that gift of a photographic memory. Fantastic. And I had my own way. Whatever I listened to,
you were more auditory.
I was both auditory and visual. And this is still happening right now. And if you know what it leads to, it even creates bullies in schools. Because if you're not seen by the teacher as a brilliant one, they look upon you like, well, you're the runt of the litter. And every human being wants respect. They form a bond with other runts of the litters. If you look at the statistics reeled out a couple of years ago, said 1 in every 5 pupils today suffers from dyslexia.
Wow.
So do we have what it takes? Exactly. Those are the kind of teachers we should be. Look, I mean, there's a saying that the difference between a stepping stone and a stumbling block is how you use them. So why don't we turn those teachers from stumbling blocks to stepping stones?
So let me come into the primary education is the bedrock of everything. Because if the foundation is wrong, you really, whatever you build as a structure on it would go bad and it would not last. Primary education in Lagos, some of us in Lagos, we kind of complain the schools are not good, but like Lagos is paradise as compared to other schools, other communities within the same country.
Correct.
And then we complain that 10 years down the line, the migration of the kind of people we don't want come in, but we didn't stem it at the right time. So beyond Lagos, how would you say, you were in the House of Assembly, what would you say policy-wise, what would you say representative-wise could be done by those there now? What would be the right move to solve the problem from the foundation? Because we have the largest youth population that you can see per capita in the world. So we have potential, but if we don't use them well, we'll be grooming criminals. How can we convert this potential into prize for Nigeria through the education sector from the primary sector?
I think we need to understand that the private sector, the public sector isn't one that should be joked with. Excuse me. Excuse me. You discover that I'm yet to see a governor or president of Nigeria since Nigeria was birthed that attended a private school.
No, private school?
Yes.
Sure.
From Shehu Shagari to Obasanjo to everybody went through the public school.
Maybe in another
Excuse me. Sorry?
So maybe in a few years, the next crop of leaders will be...
Well, whether we like it or not, God has a way of designing his things. But as we speak, a lot of members of the House of Reps and state assemblies and senators all went through public schools. So we need to understand that there is need for a lot more attention to those public schools.
You know something that I wanted to corroborate what you said is that we can get some water for you. What we observe, because people kept saying our educational sector is bad, our curriculum is bad, and some of the data that we've seen is that it's not that our curriculum is so bad, is that the teachers are not teaching at optimum. So what we found is that, for example, in basic education, back then, before there was some intervention, a teacher would go to school, write on the board, primary school, write on the board, right? Expect you to copy on the board and just tell you your assignment is this. And she goes out, I go and run her own business, or go and go to the markets, or go and, or send you the child to go and buy rice, or go and pick beans, or something silly.
Correct.
So the problem is that the children are not being taught. So we have a functional curriculum, but they're not being taught appropriately. I don't know. So do you agree, or do you think we have a fundamental problem with our curriculum?
On a regular basis, we look at constitutional reviews. It means that we understand and appreciate the fact that from time to time, there is need to review the Constitution.
Yes.
With our curriculum as well, necessity is the mother of invention. We have to continue to change our curriculum to fit into the times. That is on one side. So do I think the curriculum is weak? I think it needs to be rejigged. And also the quality of teachers. Now, they don't come from Mars. They're from Nigeria.
Yes.
Culture also plays a major
100%.
role. Culture plays a major role.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Honorable Dayo Bush. That's the famous name everybody knows, Dayo Bush Alebioshu, with us. He's a two-time member of the House of Representatives, and we're discussing how we can reposition education system in Nigeria. Nima, would like to jump in?
So I listened to you, and for me, I've always wondered how Nigerians lost what's nurturing, because I will not want to use college education, a child is about, policy-wise. So this is not about the home, but about the society. How children will go to school, and all parents and society worry about is the certification. So over years, the need for certification was overridden every other very important thing, which included the way a child needed to learn, the total output of a child at the end of the day. So we in Nigeria, we have plenty of certificates. Everywhere you go, people have masters, there's doctors, and they're not masters at anything. And we go to countries like Finland and all of that, and we see from the very small child.
China.
No
education,
even go far.
the
The
skill.
Benin that we're not going. People have skills. They know how. You're a teacher and you're teaching a young child. You already know how to manage a child. I sat with a teacher once and he said, this one cannot collect prize, though. It's these ones. These are the ones that can collect prize.
Wow. And
I'm wondering, and you're a teacher. And I saw another one once at a training, talked to her ward and said, you run fast, Jerry. I said, did you train her? And she was like, and she did not come that day. I said, this how? Me now, I don't have any certification in education. All I know is how to be a good mother. That's natural. So some people have seen that, and they pay for that, and they grow that in societies. Are we here? We normalize the number of. If I want to get a teacher now, how many certificates?
Let me add to your question. So what I'm hearing him say, this formal, foreign, international, Western education.
Did we create our own?
Is it serving us as of today? Right? Because what we're saying is that other countries, like she has said, China, have developed through skills acquisition. So should we begin to remodel the kind of education that we're doing in Nigeria?
Let's use China again. Can we remodel a system that is easy for our people culturally to imbibe and make that our own system of education rather than they just go to Britain.
Teach mathematics in Yoruba or in Igbo or in Hausa.
Can we have that? And something that
is it possible?
We have different types of cultures and societies. we're not from a, we come from what I refer to as an oppressive culture.
Right.
Okay.
You're younger than me, I'm better certified than you.
We just said that
and
from the government.
so we have moved from the target to distractions. What makes us feel good?
That's a word.
To what makes us feel good. It's become more of bragging rights to say, I have this, rather than
I just got back.
your penchant for knowledge.
Like you know it.
Yes. So when you have that knack, when you have that desire to learn, why is this way? Why is this that way? Sometimes you find out that your mind almost has a mind of its own. Okay. You want to do something else, but you want to know why this works this way, and then you go that way. We've seen kids do that. However, what caused this? Every bully has been bullied and just wants to pass it on. This started from the colonial days, and we're still struggling to shake it off, to see that, oh, this does not... I mean, how do you explain people who came from humble beginnings and have found themselves in government, but struggle in solving those problems they faced when they were struggling?
I'd like to answer to that.
How do you explain that? It's a case of, oh, the one that got away.
Ah.
In Yoruba, they say, the one that got away. But we have so many people who are not looked at. When you take the American system, please permit me to quickly use that. What was Obama's reason for using Hillary Clinton was that, oh, her strength was in foreign policies. As a parliamentarian, as a senator, we should see more of that. How many teachers are represented? How many people have they? You need to understand that in every society, in every family, in every business place, there is some level of politicking required to get what you desire.
So we need to have teachers in the House of Assembly.
Yeah.
And in this, who better?
We tried it for the
we've seen
constitutional review.
We had
what of the professors in
we
Nigeria?
had a doctor, our minister for health is a medical doctor, and yet this seems to be like the most stimulus season in our health sector. There's been several strikes. They've been fired. They've been re-employed.
But he has combated COVID, though. You have to give him some credit for COVID.
Did they create
But also
vaccine?
he's a minister in a democratic system where he needs to talk to different people ahead of him or below him, you know, to pass whatever.
Let's go back to education.
But yes, but education for me is, you know, we hear this conversation constantly comparing, Western education and our cultural ways. And, you know, you made a point about the oppressiveness of our culture. And I hear this regularly, the China, the Finland. If our culture is oppressive, do we do away with it completely in localizing our educational system? And when we also talk about localizing our educational system, what exactly are we saying? Are we saying just use Nigerian languages in passing, you know, information, or do what we're already doing and make it more Western than Nigerian?
We need to understand something, that what is culture? Culture is the lenses through which we look at things. We learn it. Our grandparents, our parents, those older brothers or those older ones you look up to in the community and things like that, who influence how you think, the mindset. There is need for a reorientation of that. How we see certain things, like I had said, I just want that certification, that's all I need. Because most requirements are, for example, for you to apply for this job, or for you to sit in any parliament, you need this. For you to contest as this, you need this. So the focus is, let me just focus on getting the certification. But what about knowledge in itself? We have a lot of knowledgeable people. And, I mean, records have shown that our doctors are hot when they get out there.
Yes.
Where did they learn? Here.
Yeah.
For his Western education.
So, yes, whether we like it or not, Western education, I mean, you're referring to Finland where they're doing amazingly well. So I think what we need to do is take those things. I always used to tell my colleagues that there is need for the domestication of every single law that we see. So whatever, you just don't take it. When I read the papers, I understand that this is somebody's view, this is somebody's opinion. So I try to read in between the lines rather than just taking it, thinking that this is nature communicating with me. You know.
So let me try to paint the picture of what we're trying to say earlier. So we have, let's see, an entire class, Nigerian children. There are 10 of them, the entire class, right? So 2 of them have natural gift.
Correct.
Or certain, maybe they can absorb the Western knowledge because of their natural gifting. Others take in knowledge in different ways. So I think it was BC that explained it to us the last time she was here, that the Western education, so 2 of you in class, do pass exam, you're academically inclined, you pass the exam, you go abroad, and you do very well. The Western education hasn't benefited the remaining 8 because they're not able to this knowledge. Now, if this same knowledge has been broken down in their own dialect or based through the lenses of which they were raised, and we help them to understand, maybe we'll have more doctors. So you're not only getting 2 doctors now that traveled abroad, you're not getting like maybe about 7 or 8 doctors who will still become doctors because they had a better understanding of this knowledge. That's what we were saying earlier.
Okay.
Is that a valid argument?
To address that,
yes.
I don't totally agree with that. And I'll tell you the reason I don't. When you go to a doctor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us have malaria. Even when the doctor knows we have malaria, they would ask further questions so they know the appropriate medication to prescribe for each one of us. It's obvious and very clear that we've had a one-size-fits-all system. I'd mentioned earlier dyslexia, dyspraxia. The teacher also needs to, the teacher is frustrated. How inspired is the teacher? Now, I saw a case where a teacher was really upset and said, I don't know what's wrong with this child. Never pays attention. And the parent was also, so I looked at the teacher and asked, what do you think the problem is? He said, too playful. And I said, no, that's not the case. Do you know how the human mind works? Do you know the body receives 11 million bits of information per second? There's a lot the child, do you know how many times you want to say something and you're thinking, what was I going to say now? So you can imagine a child, 11 million bits, and the child is only able to process between 40 and 60 bits of information per second. So how do you get that child when you realize that the child is strained? How do you get the child back? This Finland that we're talking about, at any single time, have between 2 to 3 teachers in a class. And it's not like they have a heavily packed class anyways. They have, 15, 20 pupils in a class with 3 teachers in a class at the same time. They would have understood, they would have profiled. How often do we profile our students? So it means that we have to prepare the teachers in order to impact positively.
All right, let me take this call, because you keep going back to the issue of the teacher training. So we're going to come back to that. Let me take Chesson. Chesson, are you there from K2?
Yes, I'm here.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I want to talk on the Magodo residency.
It's your view. Let it count. Go ahead, please.
Hello? I want to talk
It's your view. Let it count. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I want to talk on Magodo resident issue. See, there is a court injunction that says let so party take possession of their property. That is the highest court in the land. Let it be respected. Highest the governor could do is to call the party involved and see how he can manage the situation. The policemen who are there, they are working according to the instructions given by the court, the highest court in the land. Don't let us make mockery of our judiciary. Let the police do their job and let the executive or whatever, the people that make law, let them do their job too. Please, I don't want a situation whereby people will be saying, why should these people want to take possession of their property? It is the court that gave such injunction, and let it be respected.
Thank you very much, Chezo. Yes, go ahead. So,
okay.
Go ahead.
Yes, you were saying we'll just go back to teachers' training.
Yeah.
And, you know, when we talk about domesticating our, our education, I know of children who went to village schools, and they have teachers who teach them in local languages. And the only thing that those children can live with is the fact that they can speak the local languages. So just knowing the local language does not explain the physics, the chemistry, in the local language. And many people are like, and then you see these children now. I went to school with a few of them who are now moved to regular schools. And they are struggling. That's one. Secondly, there's this world out there that does not really recognize the fact that you only speak, your local language, and it does not reflect in all the other things that that helps you career-wise. So I'm thinking domesticating education it has to do a lot with values, civic duties, things like that. Let's localize that. Let's teach our children the things their rights and responsibilities as Nigerians within Nigeria, and marry it with the Western education that the world is thriving on.
When I refer to domesticating it, don't forget that a lot of the books we use, the case studies and all, are foreign to us. How do we explain it in such a way? You're speaking in it that the pupils would understand. You're talking about, you're using cones to explain stuff, and the child hasn't even seen a cone. You're saying, oh, if you have 3 kiwis and you add 2 foreign fruits, the child probably doesn't even know what a kiwi is.
That was what happened in my primary school.
You've thrown that child away completely.
Doesn't happen anymore.
So how do we domesticate it and explain in Agbalumo? But to say that, I mean, for crying out loud, our lingua franca is English. I remember I saw something trending, a friend of mine who's always very happy to make sure he whoops me in line, or to challenge me in a good way, a positive criticism. And he showed me a video that was trending then about some guy who was complaining about how the Chinese were doing all constructions and this and that the problem now is that the Chinese don't speak English, and they would come do this and go away. And he said, oh, he's making sense. And I said, absolutely not. You have to prepare yourself. You have to prepare yourself to achieve what you want to achieve. I know a gentleman, I met him a few years ago, who left America just for the purpose of studying Chinese, went to China, came back, and he's practically a subcontractor in Ibadan, doing marvelously well. He didn't allow his inability to speak Chinese stop him from getting to where he was going. So if you have to adjust...
What I think we're saying, sir, is that, first of all, because we've seen Indians who can't speak English, Chinese, and they are there building cars and bread. So the point I think we're trying to make is that, can we domesticate, understand the problem we have, first of all? We have a problem with inventing in this country. We need our people to find solutions to recycling, for example. We have tires, we have peppers everywhere. So we want them to understand. Maybe we can, if we domesticate the learning or the teaching of these things, what we'll say that we can solve better problems, because the few of us that grab it, we go abroad and we come back. But the majority that don't grab it are saying, listen, I want to know this thing. But they're smarter. Many of them can be smarter, but I was telling somebody that, let me not talk about it.
Why? Please, sorry, Nima.
Doctor, I'll come to you. I'm so sorry. Let me take Florence Show. I'll come to you. Florence Show, are you there?
Yeah.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good job. Yeah, concerning the education system that we discussed, I happen to have traveled to China where I did my MBA, and I was involved in the academic sector too. What happened there is that they use one thing that I really I was able to understand is they use their language, which gave the students in-depth knowledge of what they're saying. For example, when I was doing my OND in Nigeria, we were taught by an Indian. And one of he did something that was so unique that I couldn't forget. In physics, there's what we call mu. Mu is the smallest measuring unit for math. And now, when this man taught us, he simplified by explaining that as if we should imagine a mosquito perching on a table and causing a dent, which is, you have to really imagine it deeply before you can understand it. And since then, I couldn't forget the definition of meal. And this is what Nigerian teachers have not been applying. Most of the time, what they do is to read and point away. Now, either the student could get the concept clearly or not, the next thing is to go for exam. And then they expect you to just pour it down. And when you do that, how do you expect the students to have gained knowledge? It's difficult. And that is why, if we are going to really go far in this our education sector, I will suggest two things. First of all, can we try to see if we can use our traditional language to explain things to some students so that they can, I'm not saying for the exam, I'm just for the explanation, so that they can get the in-depth knowledge of what they are teaching. And then the second one is that, do we have the technology? Can we improve our technology of teaching? Thank you.
That's an amazing contribution. I feel that my children and many of the children that are born in Lagos, their first language is English. So they think in English. You can't say you want to now teach them in Yoruba. But for those that their first language is Yoruba, it might be easier to explain to them in Yoruba. There's an interview, very popular interview that went viral from Elon Musk, and he says that it doesn't make sense, and Nima mentioned it, to say a child should cram a fly and draw the fly. That was biology for us. So I cram what the heart looks like and I draw it, label all the arteries. But I really don't understand that if one artery is blocked, what is the avenue to open it up and what will I do? So I don't understand the aerodynamics that I can borrow from how a fly is structured so that I can create my own aeroplane from that. So the idea is not for us to identify knowledge for recollection, but knowledge for creation. And it is the overhauling that we need to do. There's another part. I'm into real estate. I need skilled people. So I have a surveyor, somebody that studied survey in the university, but does not know how to do the job.
Your surveyor is hearing you.
No, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, like, I'm talking generically. Like, you've gone to school to study it. You've spent 5 years with strikes, 7 years in the university, and you are finished, but you can't actually do the job. So we're losing skills to people from Benin. We bring them in as bricklayers because our boys are not doing the job. We're bringing them in as... And they don't understand the English, but if you tell them this is the line, they will set the line and they will do the job. So how do we give the jobs to our own people and train them to be able to meet the needs of our society? Because we do need people to have skills to render the services.
I think we're just moving from the blame from, it's like we're kicking the can down the road. That's what we're doing. You mentioned India. You have to, what's your policy? What's your national policy? What is the intention of your nation? India is speaking English, their language. India is exporting education to where they would pay the kind of money they want. And these are the Americas, the Englands, and so on and so forth. They're not going to go speak Hindu there. When explaining, you can use any example. I'm dyslexic. And I'm able to communicate things by using practical things that they can use. That comes down to the skill and ability of the teacher to communicate.
So you got into where I wanted, because when the caller called earlier and talked about, you know, a language thing, we are past the language thing, just as Lope said. But the things that are common in our environment are better examples than what is in the picture. So my son, for instance, thinks a puppy. You can play with a puppy. Anywhere you see a puppy, they are friendly. You know? So localize examples. As a teacher, you're teaching a child, even when you're speaking the lingua franca, can you make an example of if somebody goes to the river to fetch water with 3 pots and put it in a drum to explain volume, can you localize our system? Because every time we see a curriculum adjustment in Nigeria, it is British curriculum. Some schools even flaunt it. Whereas we're not localizing the things that are easily available, so that a child that is under the lantern reading would, while reading, be able to make an example of things around and say, okay, I get what I'm saying, what my teacher is saying.
I think that where he started from already sort of that we need to go to the teachers.
So we're talking about policy. You just mentioned now that it has to be a national policy. Our national policy. And I'm thinking, who are the drafters of these policies? What are they looking at? Are they saying that everything that comes, all the time we localize laws? I see that. Oh, really? And you know, when I was studying, I would rather make it about a thing around me than what is coming from abroad. Can we do that in our policies?
Let me let you have a final response to that. So that sure.
We can't use one size fits all. In a class of 25 pupils, you have to profile them first of all, so you know what the problem is, rather than just saying, oh, this is the problem. For these kind of people, how do we solve the problem? For these kind of people, how do we solve the problem? For these kind of, I mean, if you like, speak English to, or speak French to somebody who deals with dyspraxia or dyslexia. I keep going back to that. Yeah. 1 in every 5. So it means that if you have 25 pupils in a class and you have forms 1A, B, C, D, E, the 5 arms of that year, you have 25 pupils in that year times 5 to up to from 5 or year 6. Once that is sorted, the next thing is, we have phones here. We all have phones, and our phones have cameras. We take pictures with them, correct?
Yeah.
But does that make us professional photographers?
No.
Can we take the same pictures as somebody whose passion is to take photographs? That's exactly what teaching is like. When you bring somebody who has studied something to come and teach, it's different from somebody who set out and said, all I want to do in my life is to teach.
So it's not enough to be a good mother.
Well, she would support the process.
You have to train the mother to be a teacher as well.
She was teaching.
We have to wrap up. I think we've been able to hit we've been able to come home with the message. At the end of the day, it's about the teachers, ensuring that we don't just want people who are passionate about certain things, but have been trained to teach, because that's the only way we can begin to start to properly educate Nigerians to get the results that we desire.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bush.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry about the water.
It worked fine.
All right.
Thank you.
That's all we can take on the show. We'll be speaking to a 2-time member of the House of Reps, Honorable Dayo Bush, and we've been discussing education, repositioning education in Nigeria, and he has taught us and reminded us that the role of the teachers is extremely important. We begin to teach teachers to be able to raise the kind of leaders that we hope to have in the future. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.